D D D D D D D D D D D. And the bottom line is that there's a real problem in Clinton. What's really good about this is Russ goes out and gives you the emails where he's communicating with Turning Point. And again, why am I talking about this? Because it's local, number one. And the sooner that we get more people in Clinton running around doing political things, bringing precinct delegates, actively attending school board meetings, actively attending city council meetings, participate in local political activities, whether it be Turning Point USA, Republican Party, Democrat Party. It doesn't matter. The more impact we have there, it is. And we've seen people try to take advantage of Charlie's assassination and murder. There have been people out there who've grandstanded and tried to get behind that. There are others who are really trying to do work here, and this is one of those places where I think Russ really found something that we should all be concerned about. Think about this. They started in our colleges back in the 60s and 70s to change the way we think. And now they're creating the teachers who teach our kindergartners, our first graders, our second graders, our third graders. There's a reason that this is so important. And the truth is if we can't get behind a local school initiative like this, then I'm not sure where we necessarily go. Mississippi is supposed to be super conservative state, supermajority of state representatives in the House, supermajority of senators in the Senate, lieutenant governor Republican, governor Republican. We got everybody locked, loaded, and ready for launch. Why can't we have nice things? It's difficult for me personally, as someone who has always tried to have people brought into the political sphere, come into the public square, speak your mind. I don't understand how any of this works with them denying a club. He goes into a FOIA request and he posts his whole FOIA request online. Dude, that's gangster. If I ever get back to doing that kind of stuff again, I think I want to take your approach and make sure everything is out in the open and in public. Maybe holding it close hold until you actually get ready to publish it, but put it out there. I really liked what Russ did with that and how he continuously updated. Long story short, not only does the Spear Act allow public conversation or public discourse in clubs inside schools that are political in nature, they were having a hard time finding the school policy that said they had to wait till next year. If you go through Russ's multi-page FOIA request, you'll see he can't find any mention of it, either in passing or written directly. There was no inference to that. And the thing about it is if there really is no public policy, and look, Magnolia Tribune, maybe we'll get something this afternoon. We'll have to come back and correct the story tomorrow. But as of right now, there's no policy that says that you have to wait a year. He ended up specifically mailing Clinton School District 3 different times. And he always made sure Dr. Fortenberry, who is the superintendent there, their attorney, Jim Keith, and one or two other individuals. There was never really any formal response to his FOIA request yet. And so we're going to get there. But the important thing is that if I FOIA something from you and I have the documents, I have to give them to you. But if you're asking me for documents, you FOIA me, and it's not in a document that's already created, then you don't have to go ahead and give that information. And it's one of the little things that a lot of people do who work in government. You know, we're required to keep a email trail everywhere you go, unless you're Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State or Bob Miller as the highway commissioner. I'm just saying. But you're required to keep your emails. You're required to keep your published works, you know, your documents and everything like that. You also you don't have to keep any of your drafts. But if drafts are considered important for context to the main document, you might be forced to keep that. And I don't know the exact Mississippi law, but I know where I came from. If those working notes were critical in the final, you were required to keep them, which was a pain in the neck because we went out there and measured the length and width of the bridge that we needed to replace. Is that piece of paper that I wrote down the length and width critical piece of information? I would say no. All I did was transfer those numbers down there, but there was an attorney who thought that that might be a critical piece of information, and they will litigate the heck out of everything. It's absolutely brutal. FOIA is no fun, and what I would say to everybody is that once you FOIA somebody, it kind of puts a barrier up. I can tell you, it's difficult. Go ahead, you're on the air.
I understand you're saying it's required to keep all this information, but I'm just curious. I listen to the news a lot, like a lot, and I've never heard of anybody being arrested, indicted, or anything else for not keeping that information. So I know you're required to do 70 miles an hour on the interstate, but if you drive that same spot, for 10 months and you never see a state trooper, you're going to bump it up to 80, 85. So what I'm saying is, just because they're required, in quotes, what holds their feet to the fire?
Well, it's supposed to be your state's attorneys and attorneys general, but FOIA violations are so rare. Well, it's not that they're rare; they're just so rarely enforced.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody enforces them. So what makes, if somebody wants to be crooked, what's going to keep their feet to the fire?
Somebody getting busted for FOIA and actually having meaningful penalties come down on them.
But I've never heard of that, ever.
No, well, they're out there. We could actually go up, and I'm sure that within the last 5 years that there's been a FOIA case somewhere in Mississippi where someone had to pay like the $2,000 fine, but it's not like criminal going to jail or anything like that. It's not like destruction of public records, unfortunately, because the record was never actually created. But
well, what I'm saying is there's bigger fines for me hunting over a baited dove field than it is for a politician doing wrong on a FOIA.
Well, that is a fact. And the bottom line is it's not just the politicians who are not responding to the FOIA. It's the bureaucrats. It's the deep state or whatever you want to call it. It's those people, who are going to have a job no matter who's elected the mayor. I know there was when I was elected a county supervisor, there was the county manager. He goes, "Mr. Gosser, I'm happy to have you here on the board. I've been here since before you got here, and I'll be here after you leave."
Absolutely.
And they really don't care, and they just go do their own thing. And then when someone like Russ comes along, where they start knowing how to ask questions, knowing how to do stuff, it puts them in a box. And I think that's what Russ is getting to right here. And dude, I haven't even read how the school responded to him because I'm not even sure that response that the school district used is actually an official response, because it doesn't necessarily directly go to Mr. Russ, and it doesn't answer any of the questions.
I mean, even if they did get caught,
Hmm.
and they did get a $2,000 fine, which is ridiculous. It's not even their money that pays it. They'll get it out of the campaign fund. You know, it's so corrupt, and it's just there's no way. If you ever get elected, you're there for as long as you want to be there. I mean, the lines are crooked, the rules are crooked, the enforcement's crooked, the whole thing's broken.
I agree. You know, when I was a highway commissioner, I was making $94,500 a year in just straight salary. And it didn't take me a long time, but I have to be truthful when I say I thought about, they're like, you know, Andy, you can just stay here, keep the status quo, do these few little things, and you're going to be there for the next 20 years. And I was actually, I did think about it, but I'm like, no, that's not what I want to do. And I ended up paying a price for it. But the thing is if good people go into government with the express understanding that they're only going to be there for one term, maybe two, you look at it completely different.
Yeah, but that's the difference in a good guy getting a job and somebody who just wants the paycheck. You know,
Well,
there's a difference in character.
that's a fact. I mean, we just have to find more people with character to run. And because right now, look at us, the people with character, we'll find work on the outside. We don't have to deal with all the silliness of politics and bureaucracy. We can go off and do our own thing. Whereas, or whereas, if you're that politician, you've got to go to those meetings. You've got to go kiss babies and shake hands, and it's just not something that people who have character normally want to do. They would rather spend time with their family. Like I know me, time with my wife and my daughter. That's top priority. You know.
Well, I think it's come to the time where it's going to take people with character to get into these jobs and make a difference.
You're absolutely right. We have to, and the thing is we've got roughly 2 to 3 years to get ready for we've got 2 years to get ready for 2027 because we'll have an election then, and then in 2028, we'll have another election, and that'll be the point when 2028 where people will be able to run for a precinct delegate, and I'm not sure if you heard about it, but I really believe in grassroots conservatives, turning point types to become precinct delegates and help shape the future of the GOP here locally. Because it's not that they don't want help; they know they need help, but you have to get in there. If you don't know how to
Well,
get in,
the last thing I got on the Clinton thing,
yeah,
isn't school where you're supposed to learn the basics of the Constitution, the basics of your basic rights,
you would
and
think.
freedom of speech being the number one? Wouldn't that be? Shouldn't they welcome opposing views because that is the basic First Amendment?
I would think so, and we kind of talked about that earlier before the computer hiccup. The thing about it is that with sorry about that, I got dry throat. But with the thing about uh, whoa, brother, we're gonna go ahead and take a quick break. The computer's flashing on and off again. I really appreciate the
All right,
call.
man.
Thanks. And we are back, God willing. We are here at the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Before just started having some issues here on my end. We were talking about FOIA, and the one thing I wanted to bring up was, and I think we talked about it a little bit, was bringing people into with character into the local system, being a part of the solution, not the problem. And I view this Turning Point USA issue in Clinton, Mississippi, as one of those places where we can possibly do that. But so we talked about how Russ had FOIA'd the Clinton High School, and this is their response. Now, every time that I've and I've been FOIA'd a lot, so I kind of understand this. Every response, you have to go through and document, what you did. They asked me for these pay stubs, so I had to go curate the pay stubs, take off all the personal information, and put them on there. So there's a really big process to this. I just can't say, okay, I've been FOIA'd these documents, throw them up there on a social media or in a PR post, and then call the answer to that FOIA acceptable. That's not true. Clinton Public School District basically put out this presser, and you always know you're over the target when they're ribbing you. Individuals on social media have incorrectly reported that school administration at Clinton High School have denied a request for students to establish a Turning Point USA chapter. Who are those individuals on social media? It's almost like they're trying to say, we don't really want to listen to you because you found out your information on social media. You didn't go to one of the approved sources. Do you know that 34% of Gen Z right now, their number one source for news is TikTok? Think about that. TikTok, 33 to 34% of Gen Z. And it's only going to grow bigger. If you think about it now, you get on your browser, you use Safari or Google, it doesn't matter to me. You will see that it's harder and harder to find things that you want to actually know online. First thing, if you're in Google, it'll give you the AI answer, whether you want it or not. Sometimes they'll bury the actual information that you're looking for 15 or 20 pages back. It's absolutely brutal. So, number one, information is getting harder to find. But two, you're not part of the club. You're not part of one of the big radio stations. You're not part of one of the local TV stations. Your message isn't getting out there. Let's read this through, because I do want to read this answer because I think it really points out to the Clinton School District. They have a problem. Clinton High School provides student access to over a dozen student clubs and organizations. All students clubs are required to be student initiated, student led, and student conducted with appropriate school supervision. And we'll get to that too, because they're trying to blame one of the teachers now for starting this. School authorities or district employees are prohibited from promoting or leading such organizations and their meetings. Remember when I said that they're going to try to blame the teacher? That's where they're lining it up in the PR. The initial process to create this student organizations originated from, or in the initial process to create this student organization, Turning Point USA, the request originated from a school employee and not from within the student body. This is specifically prohibited, and it links to the district policy. So they go down here, and if we look at the email of what this teacher said, you're going to think, what did this teacher do wrong? Because it looks to me, after reading this, and I'll be curious to hear what you all think. I'll be curious to think, what were these administrators actually thinking? Because I think this letter completely exonerates the teacher. If you're receiving this email, I specifically thought of you based on what you've shared in class and your leadership skills, or maybe just based on what I've heard. I'm considering asking the school board to establish a Turning Point chapter at Charlie at Clinton High School, Charlie Kirk's organization. However, the initiative to start the chapter would need to be student-led. If you'd be interested in meeting and discussing how we might be able to start this kind of club, please respond to the email. If you know of other students who might be interested in spearheading this kind of club at school, let me know. Again, it would have to be approved by the school board, but I've heard from several students last year that they would like a club that promotes patriotism and healthy debate. Let me know if you have any friends who would like to do something like this and seriously want it to be added to the group. So here the teacher's saying, look, you said you wanted to do this. You've gave indications in the past. People have come to me in the past, have asked me about this. So if you want this to happen, these are the steps that need to happen. And nowhere does this person say that, oh, I'm leading the group. I know when I was an instructor, I was asked questions all the time. Questions about mission planning, questions about briefing, you know, and I'm only supposed to have so much allotted time with my students. You know, do I, if a student comes up to me and asks me a question, do I purposely say, oh, I can't talk about that? We don't know if that student actually, they had conversations that weren't documented in an email, especially in education settings. Not everything is recorded. Not everything is documented. We don't know if that teacher and those students were talking about that in current events. I know my daughter had to do a couple different things with respect to Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk after he was assassinated. It's absolutely ridiculous what this school is trying to do. At some point, we as a society are going to have to start going after our school districts. If we don't, they will just continue to take our kids and turn them into stuff that we don't want them to turn into. I did have to say yesterday I had a great conversation with an unknown texter via text, and we were talking about sending our kids to college. And this gentleman is getting ready to send his kid to college, and he's like, "I'm not sure I want him to go." And I'm like, I'm leaning more and more towards not wanting my daughter to go if it's not going to be a meaningful degree and she's going there to get her education and to play volleyball. Well, then that's great. But if it's just a 4-year degree in, East African lesbian studies from the 1680s, I don't want it. I don't want to pay for that. I don't want to be part of that culture. I disagree with it. People can say that, our culture in America isn't great. Well, we have been leading the pack for the last 250 years or so. We've been absolutely on a tear. How we got here, I think is pretty safe to say that, you know, our Constitution, our belief in God, and our American hard work. That's the thing about people who came to America. People, really want to immigrate here legally. They understand that it's hard work being an American, and I'm not sure that our society today really realizes how much work it is to be an American. Not lazy. Our productivity is off the charts. We're really a great people, but with this technology, we've lost our way. I'm just looking up here. He sent in a couple more responses to the FOIA. Bottom line is that with this type of reporting on Turning Point USA, it's one of those things where we got to get it out there. If you haven't, go to my X, go ahead and download it. It's about a 15-minute read, and you can go through the documents yourself. I have reached out to a few people in Clinton. I think it would be really wonderful if we could have some people who could actually, if they decide not to start a club there, or they're disallowed the chance to start a club there, we should try to do something to where we can help those kids out. Future party leaders, perhaps. Maybe we'll find a new mayor, or or perhaps an alderman, state rep. Who knows? But I'll tell you this: the more of us who are involved here locally, and I mean like hyper local. Don't for me, I don't worry about worrying what's going on in Oxford or wherever. I just focus on my little neck of Terry, Mississippi, and life is good. It's been an interesting first hour. When we get back, we'll cap off this Turning Point USA story and get ready to go into ICE and immigration. That's a big deal. The government shutdown is already going on right now, and you, as you know, I'm a retired military guy. I know that if my pay is stopped, I'll get back paid. Just like every government employee right now who is being sent at home. I, I for one, don't think the government should be shut down. I know the Republicans tried to push through a clean CR for what that's worth, and the Democrats wanted to put a bunch of stuff on it, and the Republicans said no. So it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds and develops. It's going to be whose media game is better. Has the Trump team, along with its podcaster group, figured out how to outmaneuver the mainstream media and the dinosaurs? I don't know. We're going to have to stay tuned. It's almost like a WWE SmackDown main event. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9. We will be right back. Yes, we are back at the Andrew Gosser Show. It's been a crazy first hour. I have to say, it was the most challenging hour of radio I've had since I've gone full time here at the studio. Pretty interesting, but we got through it. I'm grateful and thankful for phone calls. And look, if we can't take care of this low level hanging fruit, Turning Point USA at the high school in Clinton, how are we going to start taking on some of these bigger issues, whether it be illegal immigration or taxes or things even bigger than that? We got Shad partnering up with ICE, which I think is pretty good. Good deal. We still have to talk about the Hegseth fallout. I was talking to a couple, like I said, field grade officer friends of mine, and they were quite nervous about the meeting. They weren't sure if it was going to be. If you read what the mainstream media was saying, it was going to be like this, public execution of all these senior military leaders, and that never was the case. Although they were able to draw money and ratings off the deal, that's not cool. But but in the end, it was a really good deal, and there are women who are active duty military who are in their military uniform popping off on TikTok and popping off on Instagram. And that's just not a winning success story right there. What is even more brutal about some of this stuff, ladies and gentlemen, these are like drill instructors, company commanders, drill sergeants, senior enlisted, E7, E8. And granted, yep, you're in the Army, you're in the Marine Corps, you're in shape, and you make BDUs look good, but that doesn't mean that we want to see it on TikTok. And that's where we're at now, because this generation is just about, hey, whatever feels good, let's go with it. Forget about it. And unfortunately, I think that stuff is just going to continue to matriculate as we go down the field. This is coming from Adweek. Last quick story here. Everyone got the Sydney Sweeney campaign wrong. You think? American Eagle stocks going through the roof, just like gold and silver. It's pretty crazy. American Eagle Outfitters Q2 earnings added yet another contested chapter in the company's advertising-led turnaround story. Long story short is that Sydney Sweeney, using the assets that God gave her, monetized blue jeans. And America liked it. They didn't want to see the nose rings. They didn't want to see the short pink or green hair. They weren't really necessarily interested in all the excessive tattoos, although those of you who have tattoos and piercings, hey, that's all right. In the next hour, we'll talk about this immigration issue, and we're going to go in hard on it. We have to call it for what it is. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We will be back in about 7.5 minutes. And we are back for hour number 2 of the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. It is Wednesday, October 1st. Happy birthday to my daughter, Toots McCracken. 17. Wow. My goodness gracious. Happy birthday, dear. It is Wednesday, October 1st, and we are streaming on Rumble. We are streaming on X. We are streaming on YouTube, and we are streaming at WYAB.com, the mothership. We love everybody listening on the airwaves, and we got great information and announcements coming with the airwaves. I think it's going to get even better. But if you can't get it, pick us up on the airwaves, feel free to pick us up on the stream. I'd appreciate it. I'd also appreciate a follow at X if you're on the X platform. I do believe that that is the best place to get unfiltered news. You might get stuff you don't want to see, but that's got the best place to actually have it show up. So if you want to give me a follow there, the number or the handle is just at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. I certainly would appreciate that. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show, it's standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. And with this morning going in after the Clinton School District, it's not something that I really enjoy doing. There are people who actually enjoy the really, I don't even want to call it gotcha journalism, the investigative journalism, where you're actually going in and trying to provide, go in and expose some stuff that needs to become exposed. Not the gotcha politics where I had this guy following me for a year and a half, and he would always try to get a gotcha. He would never do anything else. He'd just sit there and try to get you on a gotcha, and we don't want that. But speaking of a gotcha, 14 million illegal immigrants invading our country in 4 years, and between the valiant efforts of ICE and the self-deportation program, we have now roughly 12 million illegal aliens in this country, which is still way too many. But ICE is cranking up. So much so that good old Shad White, state auditor, announced that some of his troops in his state auditor office, OSA, whatever that is, Office of the State Auditor, want to become trained and approved ICE agents to execute functions of immigration enforcement with the state if needed. This is not only good to hear, it's great to have different not military, but police organizations, law enforcement organizations going in and helping ICE here in Mississippi. We haven't heard a lot about ICE here in Mississippi, but I think it's just because either A, they're really focused on other areas, or B, we're already cooperating, and we're not sitting there thumping our chests, making a big deal out of it. But we do have to look. We do have to look at what's going on in America right now. We can say that the economy is better, and I believe it is. We can say that our dollar is going further, and it is. But you have to admit, because of the absolute complete case of TDS that so many people who are in the media have, it makes conditions tough. It makes things seem not what they are. So with that, we talked about how ICE has the self-report program, 1.6 million people. We have to have these people want to leave the country. And if we need to have them come out of the shadows, and here's the thing, if they come out of the shadows and they're just here legally, they come back, they got a chance to get back in line, right? But if they're here and they've committed a crime, automatic deportation, no questions, they're gone. They're just out of here. No chance to ever come back. some people say, some people say if they're law abiding and they've been here working a long time, we should say that here are the conditions for staying. I'm not so necessarily sure I'm about that. I'm not sure I'm about that. I appreciate the fact that you have adopted to the American way of life and hard work and hustle and grit. But I'm not sure that we should have some type of exemption for that. But some people say if you pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally, you have to pay that back. You got to pay back your taxes, and you have the right to try to learn English. You have to try to learn English. You have to wait in line. Those are some things that they could say that we could potentially do that. How many of you agree with that statement? I'm curious because I never said that.
So I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone. If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes, and you have to try to learn English, and you have to wait in line.
That was Hillary way back in the day, 2008, I want to say. 2008. What changed in the Democrat Party? What changed in the Republican Party? Because we all used to spit that game about tough immigration. Is this just one of the biggest examples of the slippery slope that we've ever seen? How fast we've completely crumbled? And I'm not saying that we can't pick up the pieces, but we're almost 38 trillion in debt. 38 trillion. That is a lot of scratch. It's not even monopoly money anymore, because if you try to use that example, most people won't even understand what monopoly money is anymore. But that's neither here nor there. Truth of the matter is that more and more people do not want illegals here. They're starting to understand that illegal immigration actually hurts the U.S. jobs market. It depresses wages. It takes money out of other government programs that are supposed to be meant for U.S. citizens and deploying them elsewhere. And quite frankly, it's why we're in a government shutdown right now. This came from Politico. The Republicans attempted to pass a clean continuing resolution. Andy, what's clean mean? Clean means that they didn't put any extra funding in there, no poison pills. They didn't add any money. They didn't take any money out. They just left it alone. Democrats wanted to add $1.5 trillion of spending for a 7-week continuing resolution. Remember, this CR only goes for 7 weeks. Dee Dee asked the question, has the freebies that were be given to the illegal immigrants, have they been revoked? Federally, yes, Dee Dee. However, inside sanctuary states, sanctuary cities, if the local taxing body and the local government there wants to use local funds to house these immigrants, they can, and they are. It is happening in places like New York, in California, Washington State, Oregon. They're all over the place. I used to love this, and it's not that I'm anti-immigrant. It's not that I don't want people who want to come here to be Americans come here. And the best place to go see this is like downtown Chicago, where you have Little Italy and Little Poland, and you have Chinatown, and you've got all these different ethnicities, and they're all there, and they're all being true to their culture. Greek town, yep, can't forget that. And the whole thing is that they're Americans. They absolutely love the country. They're here to support the country. And they're not sitting here trying to undermine the country. Now, you juxtapose something like's happening in Chicago to somewhere like Los Angeles or New York, it could be a completely different situation. It's definitely a different situation in Dearborn, Michigan. Every few days that starts trending on X, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, what's gonna go on now?" You know, the truth of the matter is that as to illegal aliens, I think we can all agree that they do not deserve comprehensive healthcare benefits. They shouldn't be expended to the immigrants, illegal immigrants. If you're here legally, of course, you can if you can qualify, then get in. But to the illegals, absolutely not. There's too many homeless veterans. There's too many homeless elderly people or who have a home but don't have any way to really go out and do that. We need to take care of those people. We don't want anything to encourage more illegal immigration coming into the country. That's part of the thing too. President Trump has talked about it. Illegal immigration completely slowed down once Trump started doing all this. Why? Because they knew that they couldn't get away with it anymore. And don't think there wasn't big business for these coyotes bringing people across the border, charging an arm and a leg. Hundreds of thousands of kids who came here without parents. We know too many people who came here for medical care, and that's it. And that's the truth. For all of the craziness that we have going on right now, people come to the United States for our medical care. If you can pay the dough, you can get treated. We certainly don't want them having the same benefits that American citizens are entitled to have. I think that's a fair and reasonable thing, don't you? What here Democrats is so incendiary? What's so wrong with not wanting to put America first? I truly want to know.
As to illegal aliens, we agree with you that we do not think the comprehensive health care benefits should be extended to those who are undocumented workers and illegal aliens. We do not want to do anything to encourage more illegal immigration into this country. We know now that too many people come in for medical care as it is. We certainly don't want them having the same benefits that American citizens are entitled to have. Yes.
That was Hillary Clinton back in 1993 when they were pushing for Hillary Care. It's absolutely fascinating for me to talk to liberal Democrats who are still voting Democrat, who loved Hillary in 1993, who stomached her in 2016, but don't want anything to do with her now, still vote Democrat. It's like all the things that they used to believe in have now completely flipped in 180, and we just are so hardwired, programmed in our brains not to agree with the other side because, oh, I can't agree with them. That's going to ruin my worldview. Charlie was all about bringing people together to talk over a microphone and a Starbucks. That's why I continue to do things like this. I love to actually show how far gone certain people are. And I can do this with any Democrat politician. I can do it with some Republican ones too, if I'm being fair. But it's a little bit more, just being truthful with y'all, it's a little bit more difficult to do that on the Republican side of the house. What Republicans do is just don't say too much on that record at all. They just keep to themselves. They keep a low profile, low key OT, in and out. Yep, that's what they do. But Democrats, they love to run for a microphone. They love to run for a camera. We played some of that yesterday. We might play a little bit more today. I'm just happy because the hour's running great. I'm really grateful to everybody who's tuned in. I'm grateful to everybody in the chat who's giving me feedback as we work through this stuff. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show. We will be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. I will not let you down. And look, if you want to be part of the program, the number is 601-879-0002. The text line is open, and that is 601-879-5060. Some of you guys, I have to censor this, but the military has been wussified for so long. I'm glad to see real men are back in charge. Yep, they are. It's that testosterone. I'm not sure the military wants guys to go in juicing on testosterone going into the military, but we need young men who are full of testosterone, perfectly capable of producing it within their own bodies, going in there and just taking charge and carrying out the plan of the day. Right now, we don't have that. You know, if you think about it, the strong masculine man is being pushed out of society more and more and more. It's almost like, I hate to say it like this, but they almost need to bring back those pictures of the firefighters and the construction workers and the cops and the military all doing muscular things. And we need to have that imprinted onto our women, saying this is what a normal man does. They work. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Yes, Andrew, Sam from Madison there. Look, I told you I'd call to discuss one of the things that you wanted me to talk about.
Yep.
But, listening to the immigration deal is that my family actually immigrated from Germany, my wife from Ireland. And my wife, when her family was coming over here 4 generations ago, there was one of the people that didn't have their paperwork correct as far as sponsorship and money and the job and all, and got sent back on the boat, as well as one of them was sick.
Mm.
And the one that was sick actually died. They wouldn't let him into the United States sick, put him back on the boat, and they died on the way back to Ireland. But, my family from Germany, I remember my grandmother, because of the fact that they had come here, to get away from everything that was going over there and all, would not allow my grandfather to speak German in front of the grandkids. Said, no, we're Americans. We're going to speak English. And, when they get older, if you want to teach them German, then you can and everything. But they were just so proud, and then my dad went on to be a Marine, a gunny in the Marine Corps.
That's awesome.
And actually was on Iwo Jima during the raising of the flag. Carlson's Raiders, if you know anything about military history there for the Marine Corps. But, people think this is something that's just now happening about making you where you need to be an American and believe in this great experiment that we have going on.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's been around for generations.
Our family did something very similar, and it looks like we're starting to get a little bit of feedback, Sam. I'm going to let you go, but I really appreciate the phone call.
Okay, buddy.
Yep.
Oh.
Sorry about that, Sam. It was really weird. It was giving a weird feedback coming through. Sam, if you want to call back, you can. But my family, who immigrated from Czechoslovakia on my mother's side, the kids didn't learn Czech. I knew a few words, but my mother didn't really know the language. I certainly didn't know the language. My sisters certainly didn't know the language. And it's because they were so happy to be part of this American experiment that is a representative republic grounded in Judeo-Christian values. There's no other way to say it. You can't get one side without the other. You got to have them both. And the truth of the matter is even the people who are coming here legally today, and you talk to them because they go through the ceremony. And by the way, these people who go through the Constitution courses to become a U.S. citizen know the Constitution better than 99% of the kids in public school, because we just don't care about it. We just don't care about it in our public schools. We don't care about civics. We don't teach it. We don't care about economics. We don't teach it. We don't care about our U.S. history. We teach it, but really don't test it. And some teachers will get all upset with me and say, "Oh, we should." Nope, it's not the same, and we all know it. But Brother Sam, most people who they fought here to get here legally, they're proud to be an American. I genuinely think even some of the immigrants I know who came here from Afghanistan, I still know that they have their family meals and they keep those cultural things, but you would never know they were Afghani if you just drove by their house. There'd be American flag out on the front, absolutely beautifully kept yard, everything manicured nice, and in the back they would just be, "Hey, you want to know what? I'm not outside Kabul anymore. I'm inside the United States of America. I'm not going to get blown up. I'm not going to have to listen to the call to prayer at 5:30 in the morning. I can go do what I want to do. I can go worship God the way I want to go worship God." I remember that guy too, and I remember him making sure his kids were dressed up. It wasn't like they were wearing suits to school or anything, but there was pride there. And I'll just never forget them. I don't know where they're at now. That was when I was living up north. But long story short is that immigration has changed a lot, specifically with the Democrats moving much more to the right or to the left, excuse me. And I just want to make sure I've got everything that I want to say about immigration, because when we get back, we're going to talk Hegseth. And I normally do not like doing this, but I feel I need to. We are going to have to listen to The View. And it's going to hurt. So take your Advil, get a drink of water, do whatever you do, brace for shock, because when we come back, it's the return of Sonny Holston to the Andrew Gosser Show. And we also have a guest appearance by none other than Miss Joy Reid. She's amazing. And we're going to make sure that we continue to call out these liberals who are in the mainstream, who are absolutely costing their companies, if not billions, tens of 20s and 30s of millions of dollars by their craziness. And has anybody heard about the Jimmy Kimmel ratings lately? How they've completely fallen off a cliff. Completely fallen off a cliff. Nobody cares. He's not funny. I'm still bitter over that because I genuinely believed the government could have stayed completely quiet, but now forever in the history will they say it was the FCC and it wasn't ABC. Gives Disney a free pass, gives ABC a free pass. I guess the good thing is that Jimmy Kimmel could continue to leech valuable resources off of ABC and Disney and not have to worry about it that way. But I'm glad that the FCC is out of the Jimmy Kimmel situation. I'm pleasantly happy and pleased to see that Jimmy's ratings are in the tank, because that's competing in the marketplace of free ideas. And the truth of the matter is, when Jimmy Kimmel comes on at night, most people are either listening to their own podcast or they're listening to something else, and they're not tuning in to Kimmel or any of those other losers. When we get back, we'll have these two beautiful ladies on to talk about what they think about Pete Hegseth and the Trump administration. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Hello, it's Andrew. We're on a break.
Oh yeah, I know you're on the break here. I just wanted to tell you, I've been enjoying your show. This is Willie, and I just really do enjoy it. But I just don't think I can listen to what Jory or Sonny or whatever her name is says. So
It's going to be painful, but we got to do it. We got to bear through it. I promise to only give you a total of 3 minutes and 12 seconds.
Okay, well I'll listen to that, but it's just it's so much that's going on. I just can't understand. And it again, how can I say this? It's beginning to affect in my stomach where it's just like my stomach not up anytime I hear their names, you know. And I know I'm supposed to be a Christian. It's not hatred. It's just because I don't hate them.
Nope.
You know, I don't understand them. Okay. So, but I'll try to listen. Okay.
I appreciate it, Brother Willie.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, yeah. Only in America and only in Mississippi. It's the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. Brother Willie called in during the break, everybody, and said gets upset in his stomach when he has to listen to The View. And I told him I'm not going to subject us all to too much of it. But with respect to what Pete Hegseth and Donald J. Trump are doing to our military, you really need to be a special kind of stupid to come back like this. Everybody, I'm going to give you a 3-second timer into this. It's Sonny Holston. Get ready in 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
I'm actually really befuddled by why he did that. The optics were terrible, meaning all of our top military brass are all in one place, and we spent $6 million to get them there. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. It also didn't make a lot of sense to me that he was saying that he was going to toughen physical standards and review the anti-hazing policy by sort of implementing a hazing policy. And then also he said he was going to return to the highest male standard for combat positions because the troops were fat.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that was supposed to be an uplifting message for our military.
Maybe he's referring to Colonel Sanders.
It was really a bizarre thing. He started talking about woke DEI policies. By the way, there are no gender quotas in the military. By the way, he fired more than a dozen military leaders, many of them people of color and women. He fired the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, General Charles Brown Jr., who is African American. Yeah. He fired the first woman to command the Navy, Admiral Lisa Franchetti. I don't understand the sort of hypocrisy of firing these people, having all these people meet together, and then denigrating them.
But did you look at it? They're looking at him like he has two heads.
Well,
and that right there is, if you weren't red pilled before, you have to be now. The military is all about being in combat shape, fit to fight, ready to go. And those of us who are out, we sit there and we talk. Vets will talk and be like, man, are you seeing some of this nonsense? I can't think of the last time we've had a Secretary of War / Secretary of Defense who went out and actively PT'd, not just with the general infantry or the Marine riflemen, but it's going to Fort Bragg and doing some of the evolutions, doing some of the morning PTs. I think it's awesome. It's great to have a Secretary of War who's doing that. And it's, quite frankly, I mean, I hate to say it, but Sonny can't see that that's important. I don't know if it's because she's a leftist. I don't know if it's because she's a woman and she views things different than a man does. Look, when you're in the soup and you're fighting, you want the strongest possible dudes there you can have. And if a woman makes a standard and she can be there, then that's great. But we should not lower the standards, and we know that the standards were lowered. In fact, that's a great segment for tomorrow. I'll bring up the test I had to take back. I think I still have all of my old physical fitness records. Back in 1990, what my mile and a half time, how many push-ups I could do in 2 minutes, how many sit-ups I could do in 2 minutes. Because I think we had a 2-minute timer back then. I don't think it was a minute. And I'll go look at that. But we need to get back to those standards. I personally think that there should be one set standard for the military. And I'd like it to be to where it doesn't matter whether you're Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force. I think there should be a high standard there. I did it for almost 21 years, and I wish I could have done it a lot longer. The body said no. But I promised you I'd only give you one. There is one more view clip, but I am not going to take it because we have Joy Reid, the former announcer on MSNBC / MS Now / BS Always, who got fired and then went to CNN. Well, she is being interviewed here by an unknown interviewer. I do not know who it is. I'm not trying to necessarily belittle them. I just don't know who they are. But listen to this.
Is that if you go back before the 20th century, there were no income taxes, there were no regulations on business. You could earn as much money as you want, leave 100% of it to your children with no taxes. Right. That's the world they want back. And to get it back, they need society to change. They need people to be less modern. They need people to want fewer things.
Can you believe that she actually admitted the truth? We want to go back to where we didn't have an income tax, to where all the money that we go out and earn and we save, we can pass along to our kids. Is that what Republicans stand for? I'll tell you what, I'm all for that. You think about, it's funny because when you're young, you don't worry about succession planning. You don't worry about what's going on. But, as you get up there in years, all of a sudden, you know what? I better go talk to my attorney about how my farm is going to get passed on should something happen to me. How do I make sure that my wife and kids don't have to end up eating a bunch of tax money that I could somehow protect? I mean, the truth of the matter is the IRS and the way we're doing the tax system now is completely anti-American. And what's even more frightening is that you've got people who are supposed to be educated. Look, this is a Harvard graduate saying that. That's a Harvard graduate, and it wasn't an honorary degree. She did use DEI to get into the school, but she's got the Harvard degree. So Harvard, you eat that. No income tax, no regulations. Earn what you want. Family inherits everything. Yes. Think about how quickly families, full families, bloodlines would be out of debt in 1 or 2 generations and be well on their way to great stuff. But we're not. We're in some type of weird simulation where nothing makes sense. We're on a government shutdown. Although I see the cars are still driving, the internet's still working, the government's still out there working. Bottom line is that this is the type of culture rot that is seeping into the mainstream left zeitgeist. I guess that's why Hillary's changed, right? We just answered our own question right here on air. We wonder why Hillary went so far to the left. What actually happened? Well, Joy Reid and The View single-handedly took out the Clinton dynasty. Praise the Lord. When you have people like this being elevated and our young kids, and I don't care what color they are. I don't care about race, sex, doesn't matter. When they are exposed to crap like this so early in life, it screws them up. There's one more lady I want to talk about because I want to use the last segment to say thanks to everybody. But this is Randy Weigarten. She is in charge of the teachers union across America. And we've already said that the violence on the left and the little things they do, it's way up on the left, and on the right, not so much. But listen to this.
There is a reason why in Norway, when the Nazis took over Norway, that's why I'm wearing this paperclip. I wear 2 things now: the American flag, nobody can take patriotism away from me, and a paperclip. What did the teachers in Norway do when there was the Nazi occupation? They started wearing paperclips.
So she is just completely branded the left side or the right side of the aisle as Nazis. She goes ahead and she tries to culturally appropriate the American flag, saying that she's a patriot, and then she goes ahead and puts the clip or the paper clip on her lapel. That's about as inspiring as everybody gets a trophy at Y3 soccer. It's all slogans and sound bites, no substance. I keep seeing things like this over and over getting promoted again, and I like to think that I can curate my timeline and my feed pretty accurately. But there just seems that they continue to subject people to this, and that's maybe where they end up getting it from. You got The View, which is the most popular. Well, I shouldn't say it's the most popular talk show or news show, because it's not really a news show. It's more of a talk show. You got The View. You've got Joy Reid running around. You've got this lady running around. It's amazing to see how these people got into power. And if you thought 2025 was crazy, just wait till 2026. Next year, it's going to be insane. It's an election year, off year elections. Congress, it'll be the most important election ever in the history of the world universe for Congress. We got to get it so that we can have the Trump agenda continue. We got to keep all of our politicians. I mean, it's so ridiculous what 2026 is going to be like. And the best thing is we have to pray it up and be full of good cheer, because you looking at that stuff, you're just like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely diabolical. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Oh, yeah. We are back at the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. It was a great show. I'll tell you what, sometimes we have these shows where everything flows just smoothly and it's just textbook and everything clicks off and nothing glitches and it's just a great show. And then there's sometimes where it's like I'm hitting every pothole and landmine that I possibly could. That first hour, I am very grateful and thankful to everybody who was making sure everything was all right. And just sometimes you click something and it doesn't go, and it went down a crazy avenue there. So I'm grateful for you all. Look, with this immigration stuff, we're gonna continue to get questions. And remember, this unknown texter, a liberal, said, you know, the Democrats haven't always been for how does it say broken English? The Democrats haven't always been for funding illegal immigrants, Medicare and Medicaid. And all I got to say to you, brother, this is 2019.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
Sleepy Joe was the last one to raise his hand. That was the NBC News Democratic debate of 2019 when they were worried about who they were going to have to face President Trump. So Mr. or Mrs. Democrat asking me about that. They've been this way for as long as I can remember recently. And the bottom line is that the left is going to ultimately ending up owning this government shutdown. It's just the way it is. And you know, hopefully the Republicans end up playing this smart and they take my advice and just give them the golden plated shovel, give them the excavator, and let them dig their own grave. Americans want to take care of other Americans, and we have a generous heart. We take care of people all around the world. When there's an earthquake, when there's a tsunami, whatever the natural disaster is, we're always there. But not necessarily so the other way around. So I'm totally okay cutting off a lot of this international aid, getting rid of these illegal immigrants in our country so that we can focus on educating our kids the way that God intended. We can do these things. It is possible. I know that there's a lot of people who don't think it's possible, but I'm an optimist. I'm a Barnabas, and it's so much easier to be that way. Everybody, this was a crazy show. I am so grateful and thankful. Take care, everybody. We'll see you in about 22 hours. Be blessed.